Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have just a very inspiring show coming right up with special guest Layne Dalfen, and she's here today to share with us her new books, Have a Great Dream, Decoding Your Dreams to Discover Your Full Potential. Now, Layne has been interpreting her own dreams and the dreams of her clients for years. Her own interests in dreams stem from her early experience in Freudian analysis, where dream work was the primary tool. Layne is often known, when she's doing dream analysis, of her compassionate and articulate dream analysis with an uncanny gift to describe your dreams and plan a course of action. So let's welcome to the show, Layne Dalfen.
Hi, Marianne. Thank you for inviting me. It's actually a double book set.
It is a double book set. Okay. Well, that is fabulous. Well, how great we get to talk about that, because it's all about dreams today. And my goodness. So I've got to ask you, what started you on this path?
Well, what started me on the path was today I'm 66, and just after I turned 21, I gave birth to my first of 4 daughters who was born with Down syndrome. And not so long after, understandably, I became depressed and was very fortunate to end up in the office of a brilliant Freudian psychoanalyst here in Montreal, who actually originated from New York. And in my early 20s, I wasn't so well able to articulate my feelings, but I'm a dreamer, and I've always been a person with great dream recall, and I used to walk into the sessions with the doctor, always with a dream. So that was the first place I learned that we are problem solving in our dreams, and my introduction to Freud happened because I experienced him before I studied him. And so I can give you just an overview about where I'm coming from when it comes to dreams, and why I got this idea about the problem solving, which I discovered in psychoanalysis 45 years ago. And so the most important thing that I can tell you today is that the dream is the conversation that you're having with yourself concerning a very specific current issue that you are attempting to problem solve. And it's something that's going on this week. I'm talking about the first level. And the unbelievable news I have is that the dreams reveal solutions to the problems, and understanding the language, which is what I teach, the language of metaphor. It puts you in a very powerful, comfortable, flexible position in how you decide you want to react to a person or a situation in your life this week. Because what happens is we get over-exercised or overdeveloped in certain aspects of our personality and under-exercised in others. And so you get your knee-jerk reaction. Like if someone aggravates you, some people always clam up as a response. And other people, if they're aggravated, always speak out or scream out. And so it's our knee-jerk reaction. And the only problem about knee-jerk reactions is they don't always fit the current situation. And your dreams present all these different character traits and actions and possibilities that happen while you're discussing today's situation with yourself.
Well, and I think that's so important, because a lot of times when people get dreams, and I love, you talk about how you believe all dreams are great, even nightmares, and it's interesting because when people get nightmares, they think, oh, it's like the end of the world, or stuff is not.
No, a nightmare is a very, very healthy thing to happen, because we are self-regulating organisms. And so whatever it is that we are underreacting to in our waking life, the dream is going to overreact. And that's the nightmare or the recurring dream. If I could just give you a quick example, I think it'll all start to make sense.
Of course.
And so when we come into the world, we come in whole. We have a plethora of possibility. We could be selfish, giving, shy, assertive. You could be a hero, a chicken, an initiator, a receiver, a comedian, a serious person. So we come in with everything, and the people that bring us up teach us that it's better to be one way than another way. So for example, if you are brought up in a home with siblings, you probably get the message that it's not okay to be selfish, because you hear things from your parents like, go share your toys with your brother, go look after your sister. So the general message is that you should be doing for, not taking from, you see? And conversely, if you're brought up as an only child, you don't have to share your parents' attention. You don't have to share your toys. And you learn to become more comfortable with doing things for yourself. So I know this fellow not that long ago. It's a one-picture dream. I happen to love one-picture dreams because they say so much. And he's climbing up a huge ladder, and the higher he climbs, there's papers everywhere, piling up on top of both sides of the ladder and across the area where he's trying to take steps. And he looks up and sees the guy that he was his roommate in college. And so the dream turned out to be about the fact that he had all these papers all over his desk. That's what the dream was about. And, at work, and so I guess he uses the ladder about trying to get ahead and in life and having all these papers. And the day before the dream, a bunch of his friends had asked him to go see a movie, and he didn't have what it takes to say no. And so I asked, using a symbols point of entry, that's what I teach you in the book, these various points of entry that you can use to help uncover why you had that dream last night. And so using his friend and his symbol, I asked him, why don't you tell me what are the first 2 or 3 things that come to your mind when you think about that guy? And he said, well, he was a real selfish, take care of me first kind of guy. And so he dreams about that character. That's the character trait that's encouraging him up the ladder in the dream. And that's because this dreamer needed to access his potential to say no, because he's one of those people that doesn't know how to say no. And if you want to look deeper into the dream, you will find out that he comes from a family full of siblings. And those are the people that are usually over-exercised in giving and under-exercised in being able to say, no, I can't go to a movie. I've got work all over my desk.
Mm-hmm. You used to being.
You see where I'm going with this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's how the dreams present solutions. That's like one quick and terrific example of a dreamer trying to get in touch with that part of himself.
Mm. Well, and so for our listeners that are saying, gosh, okay, I want to get started, kind of recording my dreams, understanding them more. They've purchased your book. What do you suggest that they do?
And have purchased my book, you said?
Yes.
The first book is a short book. My daughters run from 45 all the way down to 25. And I think it was the 25-year-old's influence that encouraged me to write a 100-page book to just tell you quickly, this is how you do it. And so the first book is called Have a Great Dream, the Overview. And it also happens, honestly, because I am a first things first kind of girl. And lots of people come into my office or speak to me on the phone, and they want to go deep quickly. And I prefer, I love going deep. I'm the opposite of my husband. He just wants to know why he had that dream last night. I want to know, well, how does it relate to my childhood and what I'm over-exercised in? And so the second book is called Have a Great Dream, a Deeper Discussion. And that's for people like myself who want to look deeper into the dream. So I can give you another example of another dream if you like, just to give people examples. One woman, which I discuss in the second book, it's called The Picnic Dream. And she's dreaming that she's at a picnic, and at first there's only a few ants around, but suddenly there's an escalation. This is like a feelings point of entry. When you ask the dreamer, how did you feel in the dream? And you write down, I give you maps in the book so you know how to map a dream. I write the feelings down the left side of the page, and so you see an escalation because at first there's only a few ants, but within a few minutes, suddenly it turns into an absolute horde of ants. And using the symbols point of entry, when I asked her, what are your associations to a picnic? One of the things that she said, it's eating outside on a blanket, and it's usually sunny and warm and fun. But these ants come in a horde and they spoil the picnic. And in the dream, she wakes up while she's trying to push the ants away with her hands. And the dream turned out to be about the fact that she was having an affair. And the escalation happened. At first, there's only a few ants because those are her kids, his wife, her husband, and they're not really disturbing the picnic. But suddenly there's an escalation that happens, and the escalation was the fact that he got transferred an hour and a half away from where they live. And so he's going to move an hour and a half away, and how is she going to figure out how to travel to be with him and then have her affair, and then drive an hour and a half back to where she lives and get there in time to pick up the kids at school. I mean, obviously, the situation had grown very quickly out of control. How is the dreamer looking at the action in the dream? How is the dreamer dealing with the current situation? She's pushing the ants away with her hands. And my question is, to you and to the dreamer, is that an appropriate response to the dream situation? Like if that happened in your waking life, are you able to get rid of ants by pushing them away with your hands?
Probably not.
Probably not. So that is pointing us to an underreaction on the dreamer's part. And what I said, using Carl Jung's active imagination, what I said is maybe you need to get out the raid. And so that encouraged the dreamer. She called me a couple of days later to tell me, and she was laughing actually, that she got out the raid and she ended the affair. So that's the way that the unconscious mind gives us suggestions about our strengths and solutions that are sometimes very literal to the issues that we're facing this week.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what are some of the common themes that you see? Because I'm sure you have thousands of people over the years have come to you to help understand their dreams and to decode them. What do you see as some of the common themes?
Well, I guess common themes are, when we're aggravated with somebody and we're not speaking up. And so that screaming person in the dream might be the part of your personality that your unconscious is begging you to get in touch with. So, like, for example, I just had a woman not that long ago who was being chased by a rhinoceros. And her associations to rhinoceros was this powerfulness. And so your dreams often present a polarity, like the person who's running away from the rhinoceros and the rhinoceros. They are the antithesis of each other. And so Robbie Bosnack, I'm just thinking about Robbie, who's a good friend and a real serious Jungian analyst, always talks about the part of the dream that frightens you the most, or that you are the most uncomfortable with, or that you hate the most. That's the part of the dream that you want to reach closer to, because that's the part that your unconscious mind is asking you to exercise or giving you an opportunity to exercise. And by the way, change is, I'm here to tell you that change is possible. I'm not saying it's easy, but change is exactly like working out in a gym, working some muscles that you haven't worked before. If you're a style of person that usually keeps to yourself and you don't normally feel comfortable about speaking up, the first time you speak up, it's the same thing as going to the gym for the first time, and you know how your muscles hurt the next day and they even hurt more 2 days later. But after you keep working the muscle, you get more and more comfortable with these different parts of your personality and using them in various situations. And of course, you change the dynamic of who you are and what people expect from you. And suddenly, people don't necessarily know what they can expect from you. And it really helps not being taken advantage of in certain situations.
Well, I can see where that would be extremely helpful. I know in your book you also talk about making a dream map. So what is that, and why would it be important for us to make one?
Well, when a dreamer is talking, I am writing like a maniac. And the reason that a map is important is because you're walking around with every single memory and association that you have ever had since you're born. And it's all there in your unconscious mind, or I call it a database, or for those of us that are over 50, it's called a filing cabinet. And when you're trying to say something to yourself, the filing cabinet or database opens up, and every association or memory that you have that connects, that links you, literally links you, it's so sophisticated, to a person, place, or event that makes you feel the same way as you're feeling this week in this situation. So you cannot tell anybody else what their dream is about. And all those dictionaries out there, they are the reason why I wrote these books, because I want to teach you the interview method. And what happens with the map is you don't want to step on somebody else's dream with your projections that are based on your memories and associations. The reason I write like a maniac when the dreamer's talking is because I want to capture their language, not my language. And so, the points of entry are like the feelings, which I put down the left side of the page, asking the dreamer, how did you feel in the dream? And then it's like a dance. You come outside the dream. What do you think is going on in your life this week that's making you feel in a similar way? You've heard me already on this discussion talking about a symbols point of entry, where the guy going up the ladder, and I'm asking him for a couple of associations that he has to his college roommate. Then there's the action in the dream, which you saw in the picnic dream, in how the dreamer, her action is inappropriate to the situation with the ants, and it is reflecting her inappropriate response to her waking life situation about the affair. She's not taking action that's going to be effective. And so sometimes it's the plot. Like years ago, my daughter dreamt she had 3 weeks to live. And in the dream, she knows I'm a take care of it kind of person, so she went looking for me in the dream to help save her, and I wasn't able to save her, and the dream turned out to be about the fact that her exams were 3 weeks away, and she did feel like she was going to die. If you speak like that, if you say, I was so embarrassed, I thought I was going to die, or my exams are 3 weeks away, I'm dying. I mean, if you talk like that, then the language you speak very often comes in the form of a metaphor in the dream, because that's another point of entry, is play on words and puns. Like the woman who said, there were snakes all over the floor, I couldn't put my foot down. And listening to the language of the dreamer, I said, why? Who are you having trouble putting your foot down with? And it was her husband. He was the snake. so so that's those are points of entry, and that's the reason why I make a map. Because to uncover why you had that dream, it's very easy when you're listening to the language of the dreamer, like the one with my daughter dreaming that she's going to die and I can't help her. She's correct, because of course I couldn't help her study. Like she had to do the work herself. And that's what the dream got her in touch with, that Mommy's not going to save your life here. You're actually going to have to do the work yourself.
And I know you talk about this in the book, about how there are patterns in our dreams and to recognize them. And do all dreams that we have connect and have patterns, or is it just that we need to learn how to see those better?
We need to learn how to see those better, like the one I just gave you, the example I just gave you about my daughter. That was more about the plot, which we used to do in English class, you'll remember, when the teacher was asking you to read a story or a poem and talk about the story behind the story. And I love looking at the plot of a dream, because sometimes that's when you see it. You see the mirror happening there, and so once you get used to it, it's not rocket science, by the way. It's not that difficult to do, and sometimes the images are very literal, very straightforward. Sometimes you have to think more about it, like one of my points of entry for solution getting is taking the dream out to waking life, like we did with the picnic dream, to ask the dreamer, is that an appropriate response if that happened to you in your waking life? Would it be effective? So sometimes you do it like that. I mean, Elias Howe, who invented the sewing machine, he couldn't figure out what to do with the needle. He was so close, but couldn't figure out what to do about the needle, and he dreamt that he was captured by lance-carrying cannibals who stuck him in a pot of boiling water. And in the dream, every time he tried to get out of the pot, they would gather around him and push him back into the water to stop him from getting out. And when he looked down at the spears in the dream, he saw that at the tip of every spear there was a hole. And when he woke up in the morning, he realized that he shouldn't be putting the hole in the needle at the top. It should be at the bottom of the needle, and the sewing machine was invented. So sometimes the pictures in the dream give you a really direct solution to the issue. And sometimes it's like the picnic dream, where you want to take it out into waking life. Or in the rhinoceros dream, it's a polarity, and you want to look at, when you see a polarity in a dream, it's typically because you have given a reaction to your waking life situation that is so far over on one side of the spectrum that your unconscious mind, your healthy unconscious, is giving you a polarity on the complete other spectrum. So the woman who's being chased by a rhinoceros, she's not going to become that powerful rhinoceros overnight, because change doesn't happen that easy. But if she understands the metaphor of the dream, and that her unconscious is asking her not to be the victim in the current situation, and instead turn around and face the pursuer, or just get a little bit closer to the rhinoceros potential that she has, just a little bit of that power, well, that's great. That would mean that she's spending her first time in the gym.
I think that's so fabulous. I mean, you're able to really crack these with no problem. Have you ever had one that kind of took you a little while and going, gosh, what is that all about? It just seems like you intuitively get exactly what these dreams are talking about.
Well, I think it's more fair to say that I've had 45 years experience. And after you do anything for 45 years, you start to get more and more comfortable with it. But that being said, Montague Ullman, the late Dr. Montague Ullman, he had a method called If This Was My Dream. And if you take, 7 people and put them in a circle, and you give one dreamer to say their dream, and each person begins their sentences with, if this was my dream. And that is all that any of us are capable of doing. So I don't have really the power to tell somebody what their dream is about, but I sure know the right questions to ask. And it's not, and that's the difference between someone who calls themselves a dream interpreter and someone who is a dream analyst. And I am a dream analyst, so it's not therapy, but it's very therapeutic. And what I do is ask the right questions, and the dreamer tells me what their dream is about. It's not me who tells you what it's about. But because I hear them so often, I start to hear the plot. Like if somebody says to me, oh, I went to the airport and I missed my plane, and then, because we do a lot of repeating in our dreams, and then they'll say to me, and then later on in the dream, I'm trying to get to my suitcase, but my suitcase has been lost. And then, so I'm already hearing, while the dreamer's talking, I am already hearing that the dreamer is having trouble getting to where they want to go. You see? Or they're not feeling like they have what they need to get to where they want to go. And so if it's your first time doing it, you might not hear that. But after you do it for a while, you start to hear things that come out at you. And I have spent these years studying basically Freud, Jung, Adler, and Pearls. And one of the reasons I wrote the second book, The Deeper Discussion, because I only use the same 7 or 8 dreams throughout the span of the book, because I just want to illustrate that the fathers of psychology shouldn't have been fighting, because all of them are correct. I look at those same dreams from all these different perspectives, and you always get a prize. It doesn't matter which way you enter the dream. The minute you solve the mystery of why you had that dream last night, you got the prize. And it doesn't matter if you used Freud or Jung or Adler or Pearls. It's all good. Everything works. I mean, my husband, if he dreamt he was flying on a cow last night, he just wants to know why he was flying on a cow, and then he wants to go to work. He doesn't want to discuss with me his early childhood relationship with his mother and how that relates to why he was flying on a cow. And I think that's great. Like, for me, any learning is good. And if you just don't, if you go to work and you don't think you're a weirdo because you were flying on a cow last night, and at least now you've made some sense out of it, well, bravo for you. And if you're somebody like me or my daughters who want to dig deep, well, good luck to you. That's also good. It's all good. I think when you find out why you're behaving today and where it comes from, which is more what I talk about in the second book, I think once you do that, you really give yourself the opportunity to step away from always being who your parents told you you were, and much more about who you think you are. It's like, I don't even play golf, but in the book I call it, I want to play a different game on the back nine, because I played it my parents' way for the first 40 years, and for the second 40 years, I want to do it my way for the back nine.
Hey, isn't that great? Instead of living by, someone else's belief system, we can, determine how we're going to show up in this world. And your book is such a great resource for that. I have to ask, can this be used also to help predict the future or identify if people are sick?
It happens all the time. And it's not my personal area of expertise because I am Mrs. Problem Solver, and I'm always looking for the problem-solving aspect of the dreams. And that does not mean that we are not multitasking. One thing I have learned for sure, is that we are so sophisticated, it absolutely blows me away. It excites me the same today as it did 45 years ago. But, so if I'm dreaming, for example, if I'm dreaming about my late father during a week where I have to go out of town to speak, on a psychological point of view, I would say that is my unconscious mind tapping into my male business side. That's the part of my personality that knows how to get on the plane and go away from the kids and the grandchildren and my husband and take care of business. But how do you and I know that my father is not also visiting me? We don't, and he probably is, because I'm a very spiritual kind of person, so I never argue with stuff like that. And the day my mother passed away, and that I had a dream that night that she was sitting on a bed and she, was telling me, and the sore that she had on her back in the dream, it's gone. And she's telling me, we're all moving in the same direction, Layne. Don't feel bad. I'm fine where I am. And, those kind of messages, I could say psychologically, I was making myself feel better. And that my mother, nurturing part of myself, that's who came into the dream. And I do believe that, but you are never going to convince me that also wasn't my mom giving me a message from not so far beyond.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I've had people who I've been close with that have come to visit me, and pets, and so after they've passed. So I understand, it's interesting when we get those little telltale signs that they've been here.
I love it. I love when that happens, but it's like, for me, it's an off-the-record thing because there's a lot of dream workers out there, and many of us are part of the International Association for the Study of Dreams. And that organization, you get people who specialize and look at the spiritual stuff, and then there's people who specialize in precognitive messages that we get about our health, and give lots of examples about stuff like that, like Patricia Garfield, who I love so much. And I wrote a chapter in book 2, which I actually wrote that book 18 years ago, believe it or not. And it's a second edition now with the title Have a Great Dream. But I included a new chapter this time that has a lot of Patricia Garfield in it, and it talks about healing dreams, spiritual dreams and healing dreams, where you'll find some examples of people who dream that something's wrong and something is.
Yeah. And then they're able to move.
And I'll just leave you with, I was brought up by a European dad, and my mom wasn't European, but she was brought up by Europeans herself. So the message in my house was, don't open up your big mouth. So I learned to become under-invested in speaking up and over-invested in shutting up. And some years ago, like when I was 40, it's 26 years ago, I was studying at the Alfred Adler Institute, and I started having a series of dreams where I'm walking around on my knees. And I'll just tell you quickly that one of the ones closer to the end before I solved the puzzle was that I was at a university in Asheville, North Carolina, and I was having trouble standing up because I was walking around on my knees and it started to snow and I couldn't get up a staircase, and said to my husband in the morning, I couldn't stand up, and he said, why? Who are you having trouble standing up to? And so, and I said, okay, go to work now. because that's kind of what it feels like when you get hit with the truth. Like you know when someone has found your dream, or when you hit on the truth. And so my kneeling dreams were a discussion with myself about standing up for myself, but at the same time, about 2 weeks after I had that series of dreams, my kneecap dislocated. So that's what I mean. It got me in touch with the fact that I was having trouble standing up to my brother about a situation. It links me back to the place where I first learned not to stand up for myself, in my childhood with my parents, and there's no blame there, by the way. I mean, my parents, there's no parent that I know of that wakes up in the morning and says, how could I screw up my kid today? I mean, this is not how we wake up, but all of us are a product of our environment and our childhood, and all of us are only doing our best. But if you understand where your stuff comes from, then it's easier to make different decisions about how you were brought up as an adult today and set to the business of changing what you don't think fit. Yeah. And at the same time, simultaneously, my unconscious mind was realizing that my knee was getting weak. And so it used an image that was also precognitive at the same time.
And brought it all together. Well, gosh, Layne, I mean, we could talk for hours on this topic. You really know your stuff when it comes to dreams and dream interpretation. Where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community?
You can find me at haveagreatdream.com, same name as the books, and any day now. Anyway, just to tell you that both books are called Have a Great Dream.
Perfect. Well, we have book number 1 and book number 2 here, so people can check those out. Layne, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Marianne, you're a doll. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much, Layne. It has been such a pleasure to spend this time with you, and of course, to talk about your 2 new books, Have a Great Dream. Again, you can visit Layne's website at haveagreatdream.com, where you can learn more about dream analysis and also get in touch with her personally. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.